Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline
And Adam.
for Pixie Dust PhD. During our fall 2021 trip down to Walt Disney World, we were smack dab in the middle of the 2021 Food and Wine Festival at Epcot. And because we were down in Disney World for quite a long length of time, we were able to enjoy a bunch of those food booths and multiple times for some. Stay tuned to hear our thoughts on some lowlights and highlights. The 2021 Food and Wine Festival at Epcot ran from about mid-July to mid-November, so we weren't there on opening day or anything. The booths had plenty of time to work out their kinks, so I think we got a pretty average, normal day's worth of tastings over the many days that we went. There were a couple of booths that weren't open until October 1st for that 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World, so we didn't get to try those booths because they were closed. And then while we probably could have eaten at every single booth if we wanted to, we just chose not to, so there still were some booths we missed by choice.
Yeah, we didn't order everything on all the menus. We got the things we wanted, but I think we got a really good sampling of the potential options.
Yeah, so today we'll go over a smattering of those. I'll have some text on the screen of literally everything we've gotten, and you can watch the vlogs to get some more real-time reactions and video of those foods, but we wanted to really cover some highlights and lowlights today. Even though the 2021 Food and Wine Festival is long over, of course this is a festival that comes back every year, and a lot of the booths come back and a lot of the foods make a return, so we thought it'd be fun to discuss. In our adventures of the 2021 Epcot Food and Wine Festival, some booths we only got drinks, some booths we only got food, and other booths we got both. But first, let's talk about drinks. So my favorite drink-only experience by far was the coffee cocktail from the Donut Box. Now it was a little expensive, but it was super tasty. Lines for the Donut Box were typically short, and it was really good. So even though it costs a lot of money, I thought it was worth it. You could tell it was boozy. It had that coffee jolt to wake you up. It was very reminiscent of an espresso martini.
Yeah, and it was really great to enter the park, do a couple rides that spin you around a little bit, and you're ready to have some food, have some drinks, and start drinking around the world. It's definitely a great precursor. One of the first things you can have in the day. It was definitely my top choice drink-only experience as well.
Same.
So one of my favorite drinks in Epcot is, by the time you make it to Germany, you have the grapefruit juice and beer combo drinks. Those were definitely a highlight for me because it's low proof and it's a really refreshing drink after what may be some really heavy options.
And in general, we had a lot of wine. There were a bunch of Chenin Blancs and Rieslings we enjoyed, which are just varietals we like overall. So those really you can't miss on, in my opinion, if you enjoy a good Chenin Blanc or Riesling, which you should if you drink wine. I also got the sparkling pineapple wine from the Hawaii booth. Everything from the Hawaii booth is always good. This is no different. I will say though, it leans quite on the sweet side. So it's not a drink I would want to start with, and I didn't. But if you're averse to sweeter wines, stay away from that one. So overall for drinks, drink what you like, of course, but in our opinion, you really can't go wrong with that coffee cocktail from the Donut Box. Next, let's go over some lowlights or least favorites of food. For me, definitely that pork udon bowl from the Noodle Exchange was passable. That's kind of all I can say about it.
Yeah, I would say it's really good if it's a cold day in November towards the end of the festival, you want something warm. That soup warms you right up, but it was definitely, for us anyway, very, very salty. And, as soon as the sun came out, because it was kind of a cloudy day and kind of rationalized our decision, we started baking it really hot, and it just wasn't a good fit, and definitely something that was a miss for us.
If you have a mom and pop type Japanese shop anywhere near your hometown where you live, this udon at the festival is nothing like real udon made in that sort of loving manner. I grew up with homemade udon from my grandma, so it just felt really mass manufactured, over salted, like Adam said, and it was fine. It was good enough, but if you're not really wanting that sort of warm soup feeling in your stomach and down through your esophagus, I would say pass.
Yeah, it was definitely the biggest miss, I think, overall. But there were definitely some other dishes that were kind of I really don't necessarily need to get again. So I think one of those for me was the Kenyan coffee beef tenderloin. I really wanted to like this dish initially, and I think I did.
I think you did like it.
I did like it, but I think that it really did not live up to my expectations in the sense that I really thought it would be really good. The flavors were good, but I think just kind of the texture just kind of like turned me off. Maybe it was an old, dish that's been sitting under the heater for, 6 hours or something like that. Probably not that
Probably
long.
not 6 hours.
But, just didn't, wanted to like it more than I did.
It has room to grow, I think, in execution. I agree. I think the flavors were really there. Textures weren't there for me, whether that's the cut of meat they chose in general, or it had been sitting under a heat lamp for 40 to 60 minutes, etc. I still think it was good overall, but I definitely think that's one of those where, like, if you can get one fresh, it will probably be amazing. And if you're getting one a little more stale, like, temper your expectations. Past the udon, I think the biggest miss for me is probably over at the China Pavilion. So we got the beef bao bun there, as well as the Dragonfly alcoholic drink. And both were, again, good enough and passable, but really not memorable. And I think when you're in Epcot, between, the cost of the food and then also just the limited stomach space you have to experience all these great things, like, I would not necessarily recommend either of those items.
Yeah, coming from, our experience of having, very authentic bao, this really didn't hit the spot for us. And there's definitely a lot of better options, I think, in terms of the food and wine, options from the different booths. One thing that I think we're probably split on was the Mac and Eats booth. Jacqueline got the truffle mac and I got the cowboy mac, which is essentially mac and cheese with some crispy onions and barbecue on top. I thought it was fine, but kind of in the mindset that I don't know if it was worth the calories for me, because it was pretty standard mac, which is good, right? But I didn't love it, and I probably would miss it if I had the opportunity.
I really loved the truffle mac. I would get it again. I would recommend it. I had a bite of Adam's cowboy mac, and that flavor profile is just not as up my alley as truffle mac, so I didn't love that one. But I don't think it was a problem with execution or flavors or anything. I attributed that just to my personal taste. But I really liked the truffle mac. It is a heavy dish. It does fill you up.
They're both very heavy.
They're heavy, so that's something to consider. If you want to be eating bites around the whole world, I wouldn't do that early on because you're going to feel it in your stomach. But I really love mac and cheese, and I know you can get good mac and cheese in a lot of places outside of Disney World, but I thought it was pretty great. I thought they executed it well, which for a food booth at a festival means a lot to me. In terms of our lowlights, nothing was so terrible that I would say absolutely never get it. We asked for our money back. Everything was edible and good enough. It's just that some things feel not as special. And I think for me, especially, and maybe a little bit for Adam, there just are some types of cuisines that are easier for us to get at home in a mom and pop shop type setting, and they are cheaper and better. So, why would I be getting bao buns in Disney World when I could just get better ones at home? If you have a Chinatown, you may feel similar. Moving away from lowlights, though, let's talk about highlights. So these are some things we definitely would get again. So I would get truffle mac and cheese again, as we've already discussed. But we'll move to some things that we probably agree about a little bit more next.
Yeah, and I think, one thing I will throw out there is that, there's going to be a different category for best value. I think that some of the best food that we ate was probably in the Italian pavilion.
Yeah, we got the fried mezzalunas. So they're basically fried cheese ravioli, but they're half moon shaped, so mezzaluna instead of ravioli. And they were bomb. They knew what they were doing. They either made them fresh and we got lucky, or they know how to keep them hot under a heat lamp properly. Mm-hmm. And they were just really good. They were just everything I wanted. They were $12, I believe, for 5 fried ravioli. So per ravioli, it's not terrible, but $12 for a food and wine item, it costs a lot. And so I'm pretty certain that this booth is run by an outside corporation, not Disney itself. So you see those inflated prices for that reason. And, is it worth it? I don't know. I had made up my mind before we went that I was willing to pay the $12 for this. And I thought it was good, so I'm happy we did it. But I don't know that I could recommend it to everybody.
No, I would agree with that. Their little dishes are little inexpensive, but very tasty. You're getting maybe only getting 5 bites if you're splitting with someone, or less.
Probably.
Jeez, wow. But it's still so good.
Yeah. Another booth that I thought was amazing was Tangerine Cafe, so Morocco. Basically, we went there twice, and everything we had was above average to amazing. So I think the least good thing we had was the falafel pita. It was tasty, it just wasn't like extra special falafel, which again, you know, in the area we live, there's a lot of falafel options and some are phenomenal, so it doesn't really stand up to that. But the beef kebab was crazy good. We got a fig cocktail there that was really good. We had some bites of pistachio cake that were superb. So I think Morocco maybe gets a bad rap because it's like adventurous, but I'm a relatively picky eater, and I mean, a beef kebab is a beef kebab, you guys. Like, that is tasty.
Yeah, especially when it's like fresh and made on a grill in front of you and then served to you. You can definitely tell that it's yum.
Yeah, and also because it's, you know, a little scary, I think, for some guests. The line tends to not be super long, which is another bonus.
Yeah. So, you know, this won't be a food and wine discussion without a mention of the France Pavilion. The 3-cheese beignet, basically a savory donut bomb. Wow, that was like...
It was so good.
So good, so heavy, but, you know, so delicious.
I had heard mixed reviews about this one on the internet before we went, and I was a little nervous. So I think perhaps we did just get lucky that we got a fresher beignet than, you know, I can imagine an older, staler one would not be as good. But also, like, we really love bechamel. We really love cheese. So if you love those things...
And fried dough.
I mean, what can go wrong? The dough itself, the, like, beignet part, was, like, fairly forgettable.
Yeah, it's just a donut.
It's definitely a cheese delivery system, which is fine with me. And
yeah.
I would get that again day after day, for sure.
Yeah, and then also just, you know, as terms of one of my favorite dishes, even though it was kind of like a nightcap type dish, was the griddled cheese from the Greece booth.
Yes.
Wow. Like it was salty, it was cheesy, it was charred, it was sweet. It hit all the notes from someone who may have had a few sips of wine over the course of the evening.
Definitely also, again, a heavier dish.
Yes.
And notably, we did wait a little bit to get a fresh piece.
We did, yes.
And I think that made a really big difference. But if that's an option for you, I would absolutely recommend waiting 5 or 10 minutes to get your fresh griddled cheese. That was amazing. Moving towards some more meat-heavy items, I really enjoyed the chimichurri up offense from Flavors from Fire. It's chimichurri steak. It was a little expensive for sure, but it was very tasty. It was really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was really well executed in terms of its presentation and different elements of the dish. And, you know, anytime you're getting a well-made, well-executed steak, it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And that was the case here.
And then as with, I think, basically every festival, the Kahlua pork sliders from Hawaii, always good, such a hit. We've had them before. I think we'll get them probably every time. I also really enjoyed the ribs from the Swanky Saucy Swine. They were a little expensive, but for being a meat item, they actually weren't as bad as they could be. And they were just executed really extremely well. It was super tasty. So if they bring that item back, I would recommend it and I would get it again in a heartbeat. Yeah,
and then also we got the porchetta. You don't have to edit that out if you don't want to. But that was it was a lot of food, and it was tasty, and you know, crackle skin.
Yeah,
always good.
For the porchetta, I do wonder if we got an accidentally like larger than average portion.
Yeah, the guy may have like slipped his knife a little bit, and we got a thicker piece.
Ribs, I assume, are fairly standard though. It's like, here's your ribs.
Here's your like 2 ribs.
Right, so I think that would be normal. But yeah, those were both really good. And our friends had gotten some different dishes from Swanky Saucy Swine that were also tasty, so
but
I think...
not as good as what we got. We won that booth.
Probably. But it was a good booth overall, so if you're into that vibe, I would check it out for sure. And next, we went to the India booth twice, I believe. So I got the korma chicken, which is like cashew chicken with like a cashew curry type sauce over rice, and there were some crispy chickpeas on top. We also got wine, and then we got the madras curries also. And the korma chicken was quite good, honestly. So we get korma curry at home fairly regularly. And while the food booth korma wasn't quite as good as home korma, it was really close, which for being a food and wine festival booth means a lot.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely an extremely pleasant surprise because we didn't expect Disney to be able to execute necessarily a complex curry dish.
Yeah.
But they did in both fronts with both curries, I think, especially the korma, I think was the favorite though.
Yeah, and that introduced me to crispy chickpeas on top of my curry. which I had never had before, and that's something that we do at home now. So there you go, expanding our horizons through food and wine booths. So those were some of our top highlights regardless of price points, just things that we really enjoyed. So if you have a larger budget, splurge away. If the Disney dining plan is back and you've got those snack credits, get some of those more expensive items. But otherwise, now let's take a look at value as part of this equation. What would we buy again?
So I think something that hits the nail on the head when it comes to value for price would be brewing. And the reason why I say that is it's I think a really nice location, a little offset from the International Gateway, away from all of the busy pavilions, and it's kind of in its own little area. But you also get a lot of discretion and choice, not only with drinks, but also your wings and wing flavors. So I thought that was really great. Obviously, chicken wings can be a little on the expensive side, but the amount of customization and the quality and the freshness of the wings and the ability to kind of pick between, a lot of different brews. Normally in a pavilion booth, you've got, one or two drink choices.
Yeah, three, 4 tops.
Well, alcoholic.
Yeah, 3 or 4 tops.
Okay, yeah.
2, Germany's probably what? 2 wines, 2 beers?
Sure, yeah. But brewing had 8.
Yeah.
Different options and, 4 or 5 different wing flavors. I don't remember exactly, but I thought that for what you were getting, your amount of customization for that price point in one location that's kind of not as busy as the rest of Epcot, I thought was an excellent value, and there was always a place to sit, even on a very busy day.
It's indoors, it's air conditioned, and
yes.
Like Adam's saying, if you have a larger party or some pickier folks, there's just a lot of choices. For the most part, folks like chicken wings if they aren't vegetarian or vegan. And then also I think by nature, most of them are gluten-free, which is helpful for some folks with dietary needs. My value winner is India. The korma bowl was I think only $5.25 or somewhere in that range. And to get a protein, quite a lot of rice, a really delicious sauce, and some chickpeas, I would pay more, honestly. I'm not encouraging Disney to charge more.
Because they will.
They will.
They will.
But
yeah.
I just was really surprised. It was so delicious. It was so good. And for that price point, the chimichurri up offense, that steak is most of the meat heavy dishes are $7 or more. And so this was significantly less, kind of a more normal price point for the festival food. And it was just outrageously good.
Yeah, I have to agree. That was definitely one of the highlights, and it was at a pretty good price as well. And, you can't always guarantee that you're going to get big portions at Disney Food and Wine. But when it comes to things like curry, right? Even if they're giving you a spoonful, they're going to give you some rice, a decent amount to soak it up. So I think it's a safe bet that portion is probably going to be a good value overall.
Yeah, that one portion for me is like a big snack. If I'd gotten 2, I think it could have been a meal. So it's just for value, the India booth is my clear winner.
Yeah, and then I think if it wasn't for the lines, the Mexico taco booth, even though the tacos are a little expensive, I think they're all really well done, really quality. If you catch it when the line is pretty short, I think it's probably one of the best taco values in terms of how good it was versus the price point. I mean, you're paying more than $4 for a taco. It's
kind of a lot.
Kind of a lot, but it was really good. And, taco with mole or taco with some, shaved ribeye, it's really good. But if the line is too long, then, may not quite be worth your time.
That India booth line was never long, when we walked past it. I think that suffers from the same fate as Morocco, where people feel like it maybe is scary. But korma, for example, is a cashew-based situation. So it's not spicy basically at all. It's really creamy. It's really delicious. If you like cashew, you're going to like chicken korma. So think about it.
Yeah, I think it was also kind of a little far away from most of the main drag.
Yeah.
Which kind of did help.
Yeah. Those were some of our highlights and lowlights from Epcot's 2021 Food and Wine Festival. We are not planning to be back for the 2022 version, but maybe 2023, you never know. So I'm very hopeful that some of our favorites retain on these menus. Give me that chicken korma every festival. And of course, some of the drinks too, but especially that coffee cocktail.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully taking advantage of the booths that weren't open, that we're trying to say, hey, come for the 50th, don't come now, right?
Yeah.
So.
Brazil was still closed when we were there. I was sad about that one. So maybe next time. Let us know your favorite Food and Wine Festival booth items in the comments down below, whether they are old and haven't made a comeback or are one of those steady items that shows up every year. We'd love to know your thoughts. And if you want to chat about this outside of YouTube, you can find me over on Twitter and Instagram at PixieDustPhD. We've yet to do the Festival of the Arts, so, that's on our list. Maybe we'll hit that up in 2023, but Food and Wine definitely is a really fun experience. We had done it previously, but only for like one day. So being able to have a 10-day ticket and pop in and out of Epcot a bunch of times and hit up these booths was just such an experience.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I do like the idea of, being able to do multiple days, so you're not worried about, allocating stomach space, which you still had to do, but it wasn't as pressing, right? You don't have to rush through everything.
So we're looking forward to whenever the next time we can experience this festival is. Until then, we hope the rest of your day is magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.
Bye!